I never imagined that at this age, with hair this gray, with hands this shaky, with a heart this tired, I would be sitting here telling you a story like this, a story I once prayed no one would ever hear, a story that still tightens my chest every time I breathe in, because it reminds me of something I never wanted to believe. Sometimes, the people you love the most are the ones who push you closest to the edge. Let me ask you something, and think carefully before you answer. What would you do if one day you discovered your own child had sold your house behind your back, your home, your memories, your entire life in 4 walls and 1 fragile roof? What would you do if the betrayal didn't come from a stranger, but from the very person you carried in your belly for 9 months and raised with your own hands? I never thought I would face that question. I never thought I would become the main character of this kind of story, the type people shake their heads at and whisper, "Poor woman, how could her own child do that?" But here I am, and I want you to listen closely, not because my story is special, but because somewhere out there, someone is going through the same thing, but feels too ashamed to say it out loud. So let me start from the beginning, from the days when everything still felt peaceful, when I still believed my family was whole, before the cracks began to show, before the lies began to pile up, before the storm truly came. The life I thought was safe. I have lived in the same house for over 30 years. It's old, yes, the kind of old that creaks when the wind blows, the kind of old that smells like warm memories and forgotten birthdays. It's the home where my husband and I raised our only son, Min. My husband. He passed away 12 years ago. And ever since then, the house has been like a part of him I could still touch. Every morning, I would sit by the kitchen window, the same place he loved to read the newspaper. Every evening, I would water the bougainvillea he planted at the front gate. That home was not just bricks and cement. It was my past, my comfort, my last piece of him, and Min. He used to love that house too. As a little boy, he would run across the living room barefoot, chasing after the family dog. He would sleep next to me whenever it rained, saying he was scared of thunder. He used to be soft, warm, grateful, but life and people have a strange way of changing. Especially when money gets involved. After my husband died, Min grew distant, not angry, not cold, just far. He married a woman named Thu, pretty, sharp, ambitious, too ambitious perhaps. From the first day I met her, she looked at our old house like it was a burden, like it was embarrassing, like it didn't match her expectations of what her life should look like. I remember she once said to Min, thinking I wasn't listening, "Your mom's house is outdated. Imagine living somewhere more modern, somewhere worthy." The word worthy stung, but I stayed quiet, for peace, for family, for Min. I thought things would get better after they had their first child. I thought motherhood would soften her. I thought fatherhood would bring Min back to me. But I was wrong, very wrong. When the first shadow appeared. You know, big disasters never start with explosions. They start with tiny sounds, a drawer slightly open, a whisper not meant for your ears, a document left on the table for just a moment too long. For me, it began on a Sunday morning. I noticed Min's car parked strangely close to the house, its trunk half open, filled with folders, papers, envelopes. At first, I thought he was doing work. His job required him to handle lots of documents. But when I walked past the dining table, my heart, for some reason, skipped. There was a piece of paper lying there, thick, stamped, official-looking. I shouldn't have looked. I know that. But something inside me, a whisper, a warning, told me I needed to. So I reached for it. And the moment I read the first line, my fingers froze, my throat tightened. My vision blurred for just a second. It wasn't a bill. It wasn't a letter. It was something else, something I didn't fully understand yet, but knew instantly. That paper did not belong in my home, not if everything was truly okay. I tried to stay calm. I folded it back. I placed it where I found it. But all day, my heart felt like it was knocking against my ribs. Something was wrong. Very, very wrong. And what I didn't know then was that this was just the beginning. The first crack in the wall, the first raindrop before the storm. I didn't sleep that night. I kept turning, shifting, staring at the ceiling, listening to the old fan creak with every rotation, as if it too sensed something wasn't right. That document, that brief glance was enough to plant a seed of fear inside me. It had words like transfer, title, ownership, authorization, words that, when put together, can change the fate of a home. I tried to convince myself I was overthinking. Mothers worry too much. That's what I told myself. But the truth is, a mother always knows when something isn't normal. The next morning, Min and Thu came earlier than usual. Thu was strangely cheerful, the kind of forced cheer that feels like fresh paint over a cracked wall. "Mom, sit down," she said, pulling out a chair for me, something she hadn't done in years. I sat, slowly. My palms were already sweating, but I kept them under the table so no one would notice. Min didn't sit. He stood beside her, stiff, awkward. He kept glancing at her like he was waiting for direction. I looked at them both, and without thinking, I asked the question that had kept me awake all night. "Is there something you need to tell me?" For a moment, silence. Then Thu smiled, too wide, too bright. "Oh, Mom, you worry too much. We just came to talk about some improvements." "Improvements?" I repeated, feeling my voice thin out. She nodded eagerly. "Yes, Min and I think you deserve to live somewhere more comfortable, somewhere newer. This house is too old for you." Her words felt like tiny needles, sharpened, deliberate. I tried to steady my breathing. "I'm fine here," I said softly. "I've lived here my whole life." Thu leaned forward, lowering her voice as if I were a child. "Mom, you don't understand. This neighborhood is changing. It's not safe anymore." I wanted to laugh. I had lived here for 3 decades. I knew every neighbor by name. The neighborhood wasn't the problem. Something else was, and I felt it tightening around me like invisible rope. Min finally spoke. "Mom, Thu's right. You should trust us. We know what's best." I stared at my son, my only child, and for the first time since he was a baby, I didn't recognize the look in his eyes. It wasn't love. It wasn't concern. It was calculation. I tried to push the thought away. "You two are hiding something," I whispered. Thu blinked, her smile twitching. "Why would you say that?" I didn't answer. Instead, I studied Min's hands. They kept fidgeting, rubbing together, clenching and unclenching. That's when I knew my son was nervous, and nervous people don't hide harmless things. The first sign of betrayal. A few days later, I found something else. I woke up early, a habit since my husband passed. The house was still dark, quiet. I went outside to water the flowers, but stopped when I saw 2 men standing near my front gate, strangers in suits, holding clipboards. They were pointing at my house, squinting, writing, discussing something. I stepped closer, my heart pounding. "Excuse me, who are you?" They turned, startled. "Oh, good morning. One of them said politely, "We're here to do a property evaluation." My breath caught. Property evaluation? For who? The man glanced at his paper. For the owner. Something inside me cracked. I am the owner. They exchanged a look. Not a shocked look, not confused, just uncomfortable. "Oh, maybe we have the wrong..." They didn't finish the sentence, because at that exact moment, Min's car pulled up. He rushed out, waving them inside. Sorry, Mom gets up early," he said, laughing nervously. "You guys can go ahead." The men nodded and walked toward the house. I stood there, frozen. "Min," I said quietly, "what is this?" He avoided my eyes. "Nothing, Mom, just routine checks." "Routine for what?" He didn't answer. Instead, Thu stepped out of the car, sunglasses on, arms crossed. "Mom, stop overreacting. We told you. We're planning something better for you." Better. That word again. I stared at them, at both of them, and felt something ripple through me. Fear, confusion, but also something deeper. A quiet warning, a whisper inside my chest. You're losing control. The lie they told me that evening, Min came alone. No Thu. He sat at the edge of my bed like he used to when he wanted something as a child. Except this time, he wanted more than a toy. He wanted my home. "Mom," he said softly, "I need your signature on something." My stomach tightened. What kind of signature? He hesitated. That split second told me everything before handing me a stack of papers, thick, printed, stamped, legal. "I highlighted where you sign," he said quickly. "It's all simple, just a formality." I didn't touch the papers. Instead, I looked at his face, and I saw it, the lie, the fear, the guilt. My voice barely came out. "Min, what have you done?" He looked away. "Mom, trust me." But trust is not something you can demand after you've already broken it. My hand trembled as I opened the first page, and these words hit me like ice. Transfer of ownership, primary residence. My vision blurred. "Min," my breath hitched. "Are you selling my house?" He stood up too quickly. "It's not like that." "What is it like?" My voice cracked. "What have you done behind my back?" He clenched his jaw. And in that moment, I knew. My son was no longer the little boy who used to hide behind my legs during thunderstorms. He had become someone else entirely, someone who could lie, someone who could betray, someone who could sell his own mother's home. After Min left that night, I sat alone at the kitchen table until the sky turned from black to blue to morning. The papers were still there in front of me. I kept staring at them, but my eyes refused to understand the words. It felt like my mind was protecting itself from breaking, like if I didn't read it clearly, it wouldn't be real. But it was real. Every page, every number, every signature space. All real, and all of it meant one thing. My son was selling my house behind my back. I pressed my hand against my chest, feeling my heartbeat thump like a hammer against wood. I whispered to myself, no, he wouldn't. He wouldn't do this to me. But when someone lies to you long enough, your mind learns to whisper the truth even before your heart can accept it. I tried calling him, but he didn't pick up. I tried calling again, straight to voicemail. My hands were shaking so much I dropped the phone. I remember picking it up and holding it against my forehead as if the cold glass could calm the heat burning behind my eyes. That morning, I made tea but couldn't drink it. I walked through the house but couldn't feel my feet. Everything looked the same, but somehow, everything felt different. The walls felt thinner. The ground felt unstable. The photos on the shelf, my husband, my son as a baby, felt like ghosts watching me from a life I no longer belonged to. The second sign, Phone calls I wasn't supposed to hear 2 days later. Something else happened. Something that confirmed my worst fear. I was going to the living room when I heard voices, Min's voice and another man's voice, sharp, businesslike. They were speaking quietly, but the house was old, and the walls didn't hide secrets anymore. "Don't worry," Min whispered. "She won't know. She barely checks anything." My heart stopped. The other man replied, "You said she's already signed the authorization. You're sure nothing else is needed?" My chest tightened so much I had to hold on to the wall. Min lowered his voice even more. "It's done. She didn't read the papers. She trusts me." I closed my eyes. The room spun for a second. Then the man laughed. "You're lucky. Most old people get suspicious." Old people. Suspicious. Lucky. Each word stabbed me in a different place. I took a step back, trying not to make a sound. My feet were numb, my hands ice cold. I didn't wait for the rest of the conversation. I quietly walked to my room and closed the door as slowly as a person trying to hide a wound that's still bleeding. I sat on the bed, breathing through my mouth because it felt like the air in my room had turned too heavy. He lied. He lied to someone else about me. He lied to the man helping him. He lied to himself, and he wanted me to sign papers that would erase everything I had built for decades. I didn't know whether to cry or scream or run. I just sat there, frozen. This was no longer suspicion. This was a fact. My son, my only son, had decided that his dreams, his plans, his house with Thu were more important than my home, my memories, my life. The third sign, the box in his car. The next day, I told myself I needed to be strong. I needed to stop floating like a leaf in the wind and start acting like a woman who had something to protect. So when Min came by again, acting normal, smiling, asking what I wanted for dinner, pretending nothing was happening, I watched him carefully. He went out to the car to get something, and when he opened the back door, I saw it, a cardboard box filled with items from my house, photo albums, old documents, books, even the ceramic vase my husband gifted me on our anniversary. My breath caught. I walked outside and stood behind him before he noticed. "What is that?" I asked. He jumped a little, then quickly tried to close the box. "Nothing, Mom. I was just cleaning up for you." I stared at the box, then at him. "Cleaning up? Why are you taking things from my house?" He didn't answer. Instead, he put the box deeper into the back seat, like shoving the truth into a dark corner. Something inside me snapped. "Min!" My voice cracked. "Look at me." He froze. For a moment, his face softened, like the boy I used to know was still deep inside him, fighting to come out. But then he looked away, and the softness was gone. "Mom," he said quietly, almost coldly, "please don't make this hard." My knees weakened. "Hard?" I whispered. "You are taking my things. You're making plans without me. You're involving strangers, and I'm the one making things hard." He rubbed his face in frustration. "You don't understand. Thu and I have plans. This house, it's holding us back." There it was, the truth I feared, the truth he couldn't hide anymore. I felt like someone had reached inside my chest and twisted something fragile. My voice trembled. "I'm holding you back." He didn't answer. Silence, heavy, sharp, cruel. The moment I realized I could lose everything that night, I cried in the dark, the kind of crying where no sound comes out, only air, only shaking, only trembling, because I realized something. Min was not asking permission. He was informing me. He had already made up his mind. He had already taken steps, hidden documents, talked to people, evaluated the house, packed things. He had already moved forward, with or without me. I put my hands over my face and whispered the question that had been haunting me. Where did I go wrong? How did my son become someone who could hurt me like this? How did I lose him without ever seeing it happen? There comes a moment in every storm when the wind stops pretending to be gentle and finally shows its true strength. For me, that moment came on a Wednesday afternoon. It was strangely quiet that day, too quiet, the kind that makes you feel as if the air itself is holding its breath. I was rearranging the dishes in the kitchen when I heard a car door slam outside, then another, then voices, not Min's voice, not Thu's, men's voices, firm, commanding. I wiped my hands on my apron and walked to the window. 3 men were standing in front of the house holding clipboards, cameras, and measuring tools. Real estate agents. I froze. One of them knocked on the door, not gently, not politely, but firmly, the kind of knock you use when you think you have the right to enter. My heart dropped into my stomach. I opened the door slowly. "Can I help you?" My voice was quieter than I intended. The tallest man smiled, a professional smile, polished and empty. "Good afternoon, ma'am. We have an appointment to photograph the interior." My breath hitched. "Photograph what?" "The property," he said simply. He said it as if my home were a product on a shelf, as if my memories were items on a shopping list. "You must be mistaken," I whispered. He lifted the paper in his hand. "No mistake. Your son confirmed it. He said the house is ready for listing." Listing, listing, listing. The word echoed in my head until everything inside me went numb. I swallowed hard. "My son said that?" The man nodded. "Yes, and he said you were aware. He mentioned you're elderly and don't want stress, so he asked us to handle everything directly with him." I felt something inside me crack, like a thin piece of glass breaking under pressure. I stepped back. My voice trembled. I didn't agree to anything. This is my house." The man blinked, confused for a moment, then uncomfortable. "Oh, I see. Well, ma'am, he said you gave written authorization." Written authorization. The papers I hadn't signed, the papers he tried to trick me with. I shook my head slowly. "No, I didn't sign anything." And before the man could respond, another car pulled up. Min's. He rushed out of the driver's seat like a student caught cheating by the principal. "Mom!" he shouted. "What are you doing?" "What am I doing?" My voice rose, raw, shaking. "What are you doing, Min?" The agents stepped back awkwardly, realizing they had walked into a family volcano seconds before eruption. "Mom, we talked about this." "No," I cut him off. "You talked. You and Thu. I was never part of anything." He clenched his jaw. He hated when I spoke firmly. He didn't like when I challenged him. But today, I was no longer whispering. "Mom," he said through his teeth, "can we discuss this inside?" "No," I said again. "You will talk to me here, in front of these people, in broad daylight, so everyone can hear the truth you've been hiding." The agents looked down. One pretended to check his phone. One stared at the pavement. Min inhaled slowly, a long, frustrated breath. "Mom, I already started the paperwork. Backing out now is going to cost money. A lot of money." My blood ran cold. "So that's what this is?" I whispered. "You're selling my house because money is more important?" He didn't deny it. He didn't even try. He just sighed, as if I were the one being unreasonable. "Mom, this house is old. It's worth a lot right now. Tho and I need a bigger place. The kids are growing. We're doing this for the family." The family. I almost laughed. The sound came out broken. "For the family?" I said slowly. "And what am I, Min? Am I not part of your family?" He looked away. Guilt flickered in his eyes, but only for a second. Then he said the sentence that would haunt me for weeks. Mom, you don't need this house anymore. Something inside me collapsed. My knees nearly gave out. You don't need this house anymore. The place where I built my life, where I raised him, where his father took his last breath, where every corner held a piece of me. He said I didn't need it. He said it like he was explaining something obvious, like telling me the weather. I pressed a hand to my chest. Min, how could you say that? He finally snapped. Because it's the truth. You're alone, Mom. This place is too big for you. You can't keep living like this. The agent stepped further away. The air felt heavier. My ears rang. So instead of helping me, I whispered, You decided to take everything? He didn't answer. Silence again, sharp, cutting, cruel. The truth I wasn't supposed to see. I walked past him and opened the trunk of his car. He grabbed my arm. Mom, but I pulled away. Inside were more boxes, more of my belongings, old documents, clothes, frames, even the sweater I wore the day Min was born. I stared at it. My throat closed. You were moving me out, I said, barely hearing my own voice. He didn't deny it, and that silence was louder than anything he could have said. In that moment, everything inside me broke, not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, the quiet kind of breaking that changes a person forever. There is a kind of silence that doesn't calm you, but chokes you. That was the silence between Min and me as I stared into the trunk of his car, at the boxes filled with pieces of my life, pieces he had quietly packed away without asking, without telling, without caring. I touched the edge of the cardboard. The paper felt rough beneath my fingers, but not as rough as the truth settling into my chest. You were moving me out, I repeated. Min swallowed hard. His eyes darted between me and the real estate agents, as if he wished all of us would disappear so he could avoid this moment forever. Mom, listen. His voice softened, desperate, almost pleading. We were going to tell you, but we needed the paperwork done first. You would have panicked otherwise. I stared at him, panicked. As if I were some fragile glass he needed to trick into staying whole. As if lying to me was better, I whispered. He ran a hand through his hair. This was the only way, Mom. Thu said. I cut him off, my voice trembling. So this wasn't even your idea? He looked away. And there it was. The truth he didn't want to admit. A truth that broke me in a new, deeper way. My son's betrayal was guided by someone else's hands, someone else's ambition, someone else's greed, and he let it happen. He let her whisper in his ear, let her steer him, let her reshape him into someone I barely recognized. Mom, Thu just wants what's best for us, he said weakly. We need a bigger house. And what do I need, Min? My voice shattered. He said nothing. Absolutely nothing. The neighbor who heard everything. Before either of us could speak again, I heard footsteps approaching. It was my neighbor, Bak Hoa, an older man who'd lived next door for 25 years. He walked toward us slowly, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. Is everything okay? He asked, but he already knew the answer. Min stiffened. He hated when outsiders saw the cracks in his perfect image. We're fine, Min said quickly, but Bak Hoa shook his head. No, you're not. He looked at me gently. Ko on Kong? I didn't trust myself to speak. I simply nodded, though everything inside me was collapsing. He turned to Min. I saw the agents earlier, he said. They told me the house was for sale. They said you were handling everything. Min's eyes widened. Bak, please, this is a family matter. But Bak Hoa stepped closer. No, this is a moral matter, and I won't stand here and watch you disrespect your mother like this. Min clenched his jaw. I'm not disrespecting anyone, he snapped. but Bakhoa pointed at the trunk. Then why are her things packed in boxes? The real estate agent stood frozen, awkward and unsure whether to flee or stay. Min's face flushed with anger, or maybe shame. He suddenly grabbed my arm. "Mom, we're going inside," he said through his teeth. "You're embarrassing me." I pulled my arm back. "I'm embarrassing you." My voice broke, raw, wounded. "You stole my house behind my back, and I'm the one embarrassing you?" Even the agents lowered their heads. The break point. We went inside the house. The moment the door closed, Min lost whatever patience he had left. "Mom, why are you making a scene?" he hissed. "Why am I—" I stopped myself. I steadied my breath. I stared at him until he finally looked at me. "Min," I said softly, in the calm, trembling voice of a woman who has no more tears left. "You lied to me. You tried to force me out of my own home. You hid documents. You involved strangers. And now you're asking why I'm upset." He clenched his fist so tight his knuckles whitened. "This is for your own good, Mom," he insisted, his voice rising. "You don't need this place anymore." I slammed my hand on the table. "Stop saying that." The sound echoed through the entire house. Even Min flinched. I covered my face with both hands, trying to stop myself from shaking uncontrollably. "When did I stop being your mother?" I whispered. "When did I become an obstacle, something you had to move?" Min said nothing, and silence, his silence, hurt more than any shouting could. The turning point. Karma enters quietly. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of knocking again, this time slower, gentler. I walked outside, still exhausted from crying all night. It was the postman. He handed me a letter, thick, official, sealed. I opened it with trembling hands. Inside was an envelope from the bank. At first, I didn't understand why. Then I read the first line and felt my heart drop. "Notification of irregular activity regarding your property account." Irregular activity. Unauthorized attempt. Flagged fraud suspicion. Locked transfer. Pending investigation. I reread it 3 times. I didn't know whether to scream or fall to my knees. But one thing was clear. Min's plan had hit a wall. A very big one. Somewhere, somehow, something went wrong. Something he didn't expect. Something that stopped the sale before it could go through. Something that felt strangely like justice. Like karma stepping into the room with quiet feet and sharp eyes. I exhaled shakily, my hand covering my mouth. For the first time in weeks, I felt a small, trembling spark of hope, a whisper inside my chest. "You're not alone. Something is protecting you." The letter trembled in my hands as I read it the 4th, then the 5th time. Irregular activity. Unauthorized attempt. Pending investigation. It felt like 1,000-pound weight had suddenly lifted from my chest. Not because the danger was gone, but because someone, somewhere, had finally stepped in. Someone who didn't know me. Someone who didn't know my son. Someone who simply saw something wrong and stopped it. My house wasn't sold yet. The transfer hadn't gone through. The fraud detection system caught it. And in that moment, standing barefoot on the cold tile floor, letter in one hand, tears in the other, I realized that was karma's first step. Quiet, but powerful. The explosion. I didn't call Min. I didn't call Thu. I didn't want to hear excuses. I didn't want to hear lies. They had already taken so much of my energy that even speaking to them felt like giving away pieces of my soul. But karma doesn't wait for permission. That afternoon, Min showed up again. He walked in without knocking, as if the house already belonged to him. He looked frantic. "Mom, we need to talk," he said, breathing hard as if he had run all the way. I stood there holding the letter. He didn't seem to notice it at first, but then he froze. "What's that?" he demanded. I didn't answer. I simply handed it to him. He ripped it out of my hand the way a thief snatches a wallet. His eyes scanned the page. His face slowly changed, color draining, jaw tightening, throat swallowing hard. What is this?" he muttered. "You tell me," I said softly. He crumpled the letter in his fist. "Why didn't they call me? Why didn't they tell me something was wrong?" "Maybe," I said quietly, "because you're not the owner." That one sentence hit him like a slap. He was silent for a long time. Then the truth spilled out of him, not with guilt, but with panic. "Thu is furious," he said breathlessly. "The buyer backed out. They said the bank flagged the papers. Now the agents want compensation. The deposit is frozen. We might lose money, Mom." I stared at him. That's what he was worried about. Money. Not me. Not the home. Not the betrayal. Money. My voice broke without meaning to. "Min, do you even hear yourself?" He looked up, confused, as if he truly didn't understand why I was so hurt. "Our whole plan is ruined," he said. "Thu said," I raised my hand. "I don't want to hear what Thu said anymore." He shut his mouth, and for the first time, really looked at me, really saw me, not as an obstacle, not as a burden, not as an old woman he could outsmart, but as his mother, a mother who had finally reached her limit. The final break, I walked to the living room and sat down on the wooden chair my husband used to love. "Sit," I said. Min hesitated, then sat across from me. And in a voice so calm it scared even me, I asked, "Why did you do this?" He opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. "Mom, things are hard. The kids need more room. Thu wants another baby. Our rent is high. We're drowning and you—" I whispered. "What about me, Min? Where do I fit in your plan?" He rubbed his forehead, frustrated, overwhelmed. "Mom, you don't understand how expensive life is now." I took a deep breath, the kind you take when you know the next sentence will hurt both of you. "Min, I gave you everything I could. Your education, your childhood, your stability. Your father worked until his last breath for you." My voice cracked. "And now you wanted to throw me out of the home he built for us?" His lips trembled. "Mom, I didn't want it to be this way." "But you allowed it," I said, "and that's the same thing." Tears filled my eyes, but I didn't let them fall, not yet. "You betrayed me," I said simply, not with anger, not with shouting, but with silence, with secrets, with boxes in your car. Min lowered his head. He said nothing, because there was nothing left to say. The twist of karma. 3 days later, karma struck again. Thu showed up at my house, not to apologize, not to explain, but to accuse me. She stood at my door, arms crossed, lips curled. "Because of you," she snapped. "We lost a buyer. We lost money. And now Min's boss found out he forged your signature." I blinked. "What?" She threw her hands up. "Oh, you didn't know?" "Yes. Your son forged part of the paperwork because you're too slow to sign anything." My heart stopped. "He forged my signature?" Thu rolled her eyes. "Of course he did. Otherwise the paperwork would take forever. He told the bank you agreed, but their verification flagged it. Now he has to meet with HR. He might lose his job, all because you—" I stepped toward her, slowly, quietly. She stumbled back. My voice, when it came out, was not loud, not angry, not trembling. It was steady. Stronger than I'd felt in years. "Leave," I said. "What? Leave my property, now." She scoffed. "You can't talk to me like—" I said leave. She turned pale. For the first time, she looked scared of me. Not because I threatened her, but because she finally realized I wasn't the old, gullible woman she could manipulate. I was done being silent. I was done being soft. I was done being used. She stormed away, slamming the gate behind her. I closed the door and slid down against it, allowing the tears, the long, exhausted, heavy tears, to finally come. The last decision. I knew what I had to do. The next morning I went to the bank, then a lawyer, then the district office. I updated everything, my property records, my authorization forms, my emergency contacts, my legal protections. I placed new locks on the gates, new cameras facing the pathway, new boundaries around my heart. And I wrote a document, not to cut Min out of my life, but to protect myself from the version of him that had hurt me so deeply. That evening, he came to my door. His eyes were red, his shoulders slumped. He looked like a boy again. "Mom," he whispered. I didn't speak. He knelt beside my chair. "I'm sorry," he cried. "I messed everything up. I don't know what's wrong with me." She kept pushing. I got desperate. I didn't think. I didn't want to hurt you. I swear. I never wanted to hurt you. Tears streamed down my face. I touched his head gently. "Min," I said in a shaky voice, "I don't know if I can trust you right now, but I still love you. You will always be my son. But love needs boundaries." He nodded, crying harder. I know. And that was the truth, the painful, imperfect truth. I still loved him, but I could no longer be blind. Ending. The lesson. Looking back now, I realize something. Karma doesn't always appear as thunder, or punishment, or revenge. Sometimes karma arrives quietly, in a flagged signature, in a withdrawn buyer, in a frozen deposit, in a confession forced by consequences. And sometimes, karma isn't here to destroy someone. Sometimes karma comes to protect the person who didn't protect themselves. Me. I learned that even the people we raise can someday lose their way. I learned that love without boundaries turns into burden. And I learned that strength doesn't always come from fighting. Sometimes strength comes from finally saying, enough. And until now, I still wonder, if none of this had happened, would I ever have found the courage to stand up for myself? Final words to the audience. Thank you for listening to my story. And if you have ever been betrayed by someone you love, please remember, you are not alone.